see, that's the point.
Let me hear from Moses.
The point about which law.
No, Mike. Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, they've got a legitimate right to seek information from the state, just like you do have, and you are not a member of parliament. And so it cannot be said that some people have got a monopoly on asking some of these things. Let's avoid the accounting and the economic and the rigmaroles and the circus around this Eurobond. This thing is simple. Assuming you are the husband of, you tell your wife, sweetheart, I'm going to the bank to get 1 million shillings. When we come, we are going to build a little house there, we are going to buy a car, and we are going to buy a bike for the little boy. You come home with the money. And then all of a sudden you say that, okay, that money was used to buy Skuma Wiki, it was used to buy other things. And yet when you borrowed it, there was a specific mission. I'm telling you, Mike, you're going to be divorced because the wife is going to ask you, you brought in money for some specific purpose. That is what Kenyans are asking. That is what the ordinary Kenyan is asking. I'm sitting here with people who are privileged to be sitting in budget committees of the National Assembly. In fact, Rotich then should have just said that, let the budget committee of the National Assembly explain this thing to you. He has undertaken it. He has said it himself. That fine, you are asking questions, which is right. The Constitution gives you the right to ask the questions that you are asking. Give me 2 weeks to compile. We are waiting to see whether this money, if it was borrowed, remember, what was the intention of the Eurobond?
What do you mean if it was borrowed?
To infrastructure support and general budget support.
No,
okay.
There were three reasons.
Want to see, hey,
three reasons.
My friend, it's good manners to shut up sometimes.
And just allow
we want to confirm. We want to confirm. Yeah, that's why you need to give people an opportunity. We want to confirm that the amount of money that was borrowed, yes, it was borrowed. Yes, it was one of the most successful Eurobonds, going by the interest rates that we got. But have we used it? Did we use it to build the house, to buy the car, to buy the bike for the little boy? Okay. Or we used it to drink and to do other things that are not beneficial to the nation?
Those analogies are neither here nor there. 3 ostensible reasons why the Eurobond was borrowed. Budgetary support, development projects, and to liquidate the what is it? That loan?
The 53 billion.
The $600 billion syndicated loan. To liquidate the syndicated loan. 3 ostensible reasons. Was the loan liquidated? Yes. Have we been supporting the Eurobond with budget? Yes. Are projects being funded with the same funds? Yes.
Which project?
The original accusation, hang on, we'll get there. The original accusation which the court leader issued was that the money that was raised in the Eurobond was put in a personal account of somebody out there. That's where we started. That's where we started this discussion. Pesa zimekuliwa huko. Okay? Now what he meant, what he said, what he implied by that statement was that JP Morgan, Barclays International, Standard Chartered have been complicit in aiding and abetting fraud and theft of sovereign funds. That's what he said. That's what he was implying. So he's now casting aspersions on multilateral, international, highly reputed financial institutions in the world. When he saw that that was not tenable, he now changed goalposts. Oh, no, the money came, but it was 140 billion was missing. We gave him line item by line item. Oh, it wasn't 140, now it's 10 billion that's missing. We gave him line item by line item. Okay, it wasn't 10 billion. We don't know where the money, which projects were used to fund. I mean, what is this? Changing goalposts?
All right, I want to add on to what Honorable Odinga said. I do agree with my brother Moses Kajwang about the need to come out with facts. I'm actually opposed to the issue of coming up with accountability for one particular line of revenue, which is a Eurobond. So we need to come up with all of them. And when we say the Ministry of Agriculture got these funds, the relevant departmental committees in Parliament need to look at how money in that particular ministry is used. So that one is, I think we are getting into a very dangerous place where we say, and it's going to make our accounting, and I'm saying that as a graduate of finance and accounting, it's going to make our accounting very, very difficult. When we start accounting for that one particular line of revenue, we have got a basket which receives revenue, and we have got a way where these monies are spent. But let me look at the flip side of this. After we go through that process of accounting for that, and we find out that no money was spent, was lost. If money was lost, and I've said it before, Rotich needs to be home in the morning. He needs to resign. Doga needs to be home in the morning. On the flip side, if no money was lost, people like Raila Odinga needs to retire from politics.
Immediately.
Because there has to be a consequence equally. Because if you're saying this one, resign. Look at now the Eurobond. It is started trading at a premium. And not many sovereign bonds trade at a premium. That's how attractive this bond was. Now, in the Irish stock exchange, where this bond is listed, it is now trading at a massive discount after these noises came by. That is not something you do to hurt Uhuru Kenyatta or Moses Kuria or Ellen Rotich. Okay? It is something you are doing to hurt the country.
Right.
So who is going to compensate this country?
Absolutely.
For
that's economic
because of the
sabotage.
impact and the economic, that's why we are calling it economic sabotage.
Par
All right.
excellence.
Honorable Kaluma, and a genuine concern there from Honorable Moses Kuria, and that is the fact that if indeed Eurobond was misspent, then heads must roll. Some people must leave. Equally, if these are allegations that are unfounded, again, given the fact that there are adverse effects that it has on the country, which we may not feel now and we'll feel later, will heads roll?
Mike, you know, heads roll from where? You know, my colleagues in Parliament amaze me. We came on this studio just a short while back, and you remember we were being told about NYS projects in Kibera, how they are changing lives in Kibera, the lives presumably of Luos in Nyalenda. And I said there is looting going on.
I would say the lives of Kenyans in Nyalenda,
it was with you.
If I said
that day, by the way, they were purposely targeted at regions which were deemed to be regions from where the Prime Minister, not knowing is a leader for the entire country. And Mike, you remember we sat here with this gentleman, and you know our jealousies against government projects and everything was the rallying call. Where are we now? Madam Waiguru is home, you like it or not, crying that she's being hounded by this very government. What we are saying is that let us look at corruption as corruption. You know, we were going for Eurobond because we wanted mainly to deal with the syndicated loans, because the interest rates were 5% and below. The syndicated loans are 53 billion, if you can remember. Is it not true that hardly a month ago, the president was signing again another 60 billion? At what interest rates?
60 billion of what?
I mean,
be clear.
This thing to assist your budget.
Signing with who?
The money you got last time.
Signing with
to
who?
assist you. No, don't go into those.
No,
I mean, unless you don't say the acquired loan.
It's good to have facts.
Let's be clear. Be clear.
There's a reason
Don't
acquired
just
loan.
throw
It's
figures
good to
here.
be clear which
Be
60
clear.
billion.
Mike, let me tell you, just hardly 2 months ago, not even CDF could be received by any constituency. The budget constraints, teachers, everybody not being paid in time. The government had a problem of liquidity. And you remember all 60 to 61 billion was signed and received here and happily in the media everywhere. That is what we are running on. What we are saying, and you see my brother nodding. I mean, let us not run from these things because it is convenient. I started by saying we are there to oversight government. Moses Kuria has spoken very well today, and I've kept nodding, you remember, because Parliament budgets, Parliament appropriates public funds, and budget, I mean oversights that budget. What he's saying is that we should be looking at these things wholesome. I want to tell you that it will be tedious looking at these things item by item. But in terms of our national values, the issue of accountability, in fact, the only way to look at them will be item and item. And I think we are taking too much time on Eurobond. Just yesterday, if you remember, my brothers, Honorable Jakoyo Midio was already tabling some documents. You said we call Parliament even during recess to discuss them. And I've said here, let us prepare to deal with these things in Parliament as if people say they should be dealt with. And I'm telling you, if you imagine you'll bury, you know, Eurobond issues under the sand, it is done.
It's not gonna happen.
Now, the idea is that the government must be accountable. It is a national value and principle. You must be accountable. I've never heard of a case where you say when a person demands accountability, then there must be a consequence. It is his right to demand for it. And it is the obligation of government to account. We have a situation where government is telling you, we received money on your behalf. And remember, these are not just monies being given as grants or gifts. We are paying for them. Our generations are going to be paying for them. Account for them. And of course, the cabinet secretary in charge is saying, we need 2 weeks to tell you where we spent money on.
Mike,
which is what
Mike,
Moses Kajwang is talking about.
Mike.
Too much talk about Eurobond. As the leadership of the country seated in Parliament, I've told my brothers to prepare as we go
Mike.
for Christmas to talk about Eurobond within the plenary of leadership in Parliament.
All right.
So, you know, there's no challenge, there's no problem, and there's nothing wrong with any Kenyan asking for accountability. insofar as when that accountability is given, they take the opportunity to receive it. Now, the code leader has been going from pillar to post all over the country, saying all these accusatory things about the Eurobond. It's appropriate. It's you know, the propriety and expenditure. When the person in charge, who has the answer that he is seeking, offers the information, says, "Come and get the information," he starts talking about, you know, ranking in the civil service and certain things which are neither here nor there, which indicates that there is no interest in the truth. If the issue was really about the Eurobond, a forum can be created, even in Parliament or elsewhere, where we can interrogate and answer the questions that are being asked. But the issue is not about the proprietary of the Eurobond, the reality of the receipt of the funds and expenditure of the same. The issue is about discrediting the government and government systems.
Okay.
This is why you're seeing a cause and effect. The cause was all this noise about the Eurobond. The effect is the discounting of the trading of the Eurobond on the Irish Stock Exchange. That is very clear to our minds that there is no interest in accountability. The interest is in knocking down the gains that President Uhuru Kenyatta and this Jubilee administration has made in economic development in this country. That is very, very clear in our minds.
Mike, did he say he wants us to account in Parliament?
No.
When we go to Waiguru there and they made all the noise, we could not do anything.
Let me come back to
now you're going backwards, you're reversing now.
Yeah, let me come back to you, Ndugu Githinji, and the question would be, what would be so difficult in having these accounts clearly just put before the public and having a very clear analysis of what has happened to the money?
Already,
which I know is on the website,
happened.
But they're conflicting.
Not even on the website. In the newspaper, paid up ads on
The
three
figures
dailies.
are not adding up.
What is not adding up? You see, they keep saying it's not adding up, but there's no explanation of what is not adding up. He's in Parliament. He was on the floor of the House when we passed the budget, the finance bill. He was on the floor of the House when we passed the appropriations bill. Those figures were in those bills. So if he's saying it's not adding up now, it means he didn't know what he was doing when he was passing those bills.
Okay.
Along with his colleagues.
This narrative that since people are members of Parliament and they're not supposed to question or talk about this is very fallacious. The CS for Treasury, Rotich, who is a good accountant, if he was to be fired now, he would be fired for incompetence. This thing people are calling economic sabotage has been precipitated by Rotich's I would use the word incompetence for lack of a better word. Why have we allowed this issue to drag on for this long? Why does it have to take Raila Odinga to issue ultimata and to create the kind to heighten the talk to the level where it has been heightened? For Rotich to respond by dumping some of the accounts on the website. For Rotich to respond by asking ministries to compile lists of projects that have benefited from this Eurobond. You know, my brother Moses Kuria said something very important. We have floated bonds. We had infrastructure bonds. Well, an infrastructure bond is supposed to fund infrastructure. So it should be specific. It should not go into NYS buying condoms and all sorts of things. You know, but we've got this Eurobond which had a clear purpose. Ndungu says to pay off the outstanding loan, fund infrastructure, and general budgetary support. When I walk in Homa Bay, people ask me, those condoms that were bought in Ministry of Devolution, to what extent is that infrastructure such that it should be financed, you know, by the Eurobond? Rotich has put himself in a situation where he now just has to go down and define which projects benefited from the Eurobond, because he has promised the nation. He probably would have benefited by listening to the counsel of Moses Kuria to say that it is not possible, it is not viable to account for the utilization of funds from the different sources through which the government borrows. But Mike, you are also falling the same trap Rotich fell in, because we were asking ourselves, is there anything good or bad that has happened in 2015? Yes, Eurobond was a very good thing in 2014. In 2015, it is starting to stink. But I think there could be other good things that have happened this year that are attributed to the government, attributed to the opposition, attributed to ordinary Kenyans, and it should be put on record that 2015 is much more than the corruption, is much more than the Eurobond.
Absolutely. All right, let me come to you, Moses Kuria. And we want to steer away a little bit from the Eurobond per se, because that's just one aspect of what has happened in 2015. However, when we look at the Mwananchi at the bottom of the whole scenario, their feeling is that the prices of general commodities, very basic commodities, has gone up. When we look at the standard of living, it has gone down. How can the government come out and say that we are doing better when the Mwananchi himself feels things have not gone as they should?
Thank you, Mike. And before I answer that question, let me have the last word on the Eurobond.
Very brief.
Because I want to support, my good friend from Homa Bay, Peter Karoma, that because now the issue has been thrown to EACC. First of all, Rotich has been in the newspapers. He has put the figures out there. Nobody seems to be reading. Maybe it's being put in the dark pages of the newspapers. The issue is now with the EACC. Let EACC come back to us. But I think I want to strongly support Honorable Karuma that, we had the vetting of the PSs and the CSs. And what we did is that every committee went and vetted their own PS, especially the principal secretaries. Can't we do the same for the Eurobond? So if I also sit in the committee for energy. If you say money was sent to energy, bring it to us as a committee. Then we compile reports and bring it back to the House. Because we have to decide whether the forum for accountability and oversight is Parliament or Kamukoji grounds in Kibera. I think that's just what I have to say about that. Now, regarding the trickle feed of economic benefit to the common person, and we've had that story before. But again, economic progress is actually gradual and progressive. Nobody is talking about that the price of electricity, of electric power, has gone down tremendously, within this government. Okay? Nobody is talking about the price of oil. It is actually somewhere within 20 to 25% below how it was in 2013. Yeah? And for example, oil prices have got a knock-on effects on so many other sectors of the economy. Yes, the price of food might be up there, not higher than it was. And this is where, again, we need to have empirical data in this country. This is one of the things I respect the Americans. Everything they say, whether it is consumer price index or anything, is backed by figures. As we just depend on feelings. And that's why it is very easy to manipulate feelings, to hijack them, and use them for propaganda. Tell me that the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics has released figures showing that the consumer price index has gone up. It's just a feeling out there. And you know what? It's not uncommon. We are within the midterm of this government. Yeah? We've done 2.5 years. We are, these guys, they cut our term, so we are another 20 months, to the next election. So these are normal, even in the US, even in the UK, even in other democracies, within the midterm. Is that general feeling that you don't see how it's going? The crunch of the matter will come within the next 1 year.
All right.
And we remember, we still have one more budget. Yeah,
indeed.
And to turn around this country, and then it was the same with Kibaki. Today our good friends from the opposition praised Kibaki as if they were singing Hosanna to him when he was in power. Now they are saying, Kibaki was a better manager. You should have heard what they were saying about him when he was in power.
Absolutely. All right, Honorable Peter Kaluma, and again, just going back to the question on what is the general trickle effect to the Mwananchi. And we could honestly say that some of these huge things that are being done by the government now, we don't feel them, but they definitely have an effect with time. The SGR, when we look at even the income that has come in with all the good things that have been happening this year, including the WTO, why isn't the opposition at least highlighting that and saying, look, with the SGR, this is bound to give us a trickle and a good effect over time?
Certainly. Mike, we've said there are things which started well before this government, and we've said they are very good. SGR was mooted in the previous government. In fact, what this government did was to retender for the reasons we've given here before. If you look at even this Eurobond, the idea never came from this government. These were coalition, government projects. If you look at the infrastructure, we are talking about across the country. There is no single infrastructure, main infrastructure that is, a brainchild of this government. Actually, they are continuing projects which, under the economic, summit we had in the coalition government, were initiated. And I'm saying the ideas were very good. The problem we have with a number of them under this, the current administration, is the manner in which they are being implemented. the length of time it is taking, and of course the cost of the projects. And generally, you know, the corruption element, you know, in them, which we are saying should be dealt with. I wanted to say that if you want to see where J.M. Karaoke was talking about before he died, it is the situation we have in Kenya today. The country of the rich getting richer and stinking rich, and the poor getting poorer. The divide between the poor and the rich, you know, widening by the day, is something President Barack Obama spoke about. This is something, you remember, the Pope was speaking about. The Pope was saying, how can a person own so much, yet another does not have? How can a person have so much money, yet another does not have? Unless his guests we are getting into the country or hosting, you know, we never listen to them. And by the way, this is the tragedy of Kenyans. They come, we hype, they are coming, and what we expect after that, we forget everything they tell us from their perspective. I'm saying our taxation module is dangerous to the common mwananchi down there. And remember, Mike, we passed the excise, you know, the bill the other day. Only for it to go to State House. I don't know who advised it in State House, but it was a very bad decision. When you have these common juices with sugar and others, you know, their prices being increased by 10 per liter. See what Border did to revolutionize, you know, transport in the country. You remember, Mike, the days of bicycles. And who was the finance minister, Kimunya, I remember, comes and says, we want to import border. I mean, these motorcycles into the country duty-free. In fact, we threw all bicycles away. You see the created. When you are saying on a single motorbike, through the excise duty bill, in fact, a memorandum coming from the president, you are increasing the price by 10,000. And by the way, these are complaints you hear Moses Kuria down there. People are saying, now I go to buy a motorcycle, I'm told to pay an additional 10,000 separately. Unknown to them, these things were done, you know, within Parliament. After Parliament had considered these issues, and a memorandum came back, which we could not overturn because we never lacked the numbers. The taxation has been widened so much that you look at the media, people who are thinking we are even going to begin taxing the churches. What we are saying is that when we are developing an economy, let me remind my brother, I've been attending a bit of these international conferences. You know, when you are a least developed country, at your level of status, there is so much you get. The moment you go to middle income and it is not trickling down to the common mwananchi, you are taking so much from them. Let me tell you, today the scholarships, those children of Kenya from poor backgrounds who are getting because we are in the least developed countries categories, you cannot get them. Because now we are in the rank of Brazil, China, and others. And that is the situation outside there. So you are expected, if you are developing the economy, let it trickle down. What we have is an economy for a few people.
Okay. The challenges of disparity of income between, you know, rich and poor is not a function of the Jubilee government or the Jubilee administration. This is a function of global capitalism, which personally I find a challenging system because it enshrines, you know, power and wealth for those who have it, and a life of struggle for those who don't. But unfortunately, that's the reality of the world we live in, and that's what we've inherited as Kenya. There was a time we had chosen a path where we looked at a socialist model, but that didn't work out very well. Other countries around the world, Tanzania, the Soviet Union, all opted for socialism, and you've seen the results around the world. So the challenge is, how do we make the best of the situation that we have today? In this administration, the focus is on transforming the economy and transforming the nation so that the benefit of the wealth that the country generates, it trickles down to all the people of the Republic. Key projects have been identified: SGR, increase in the number of megawatts of power generated in the country, 5,000 megawatts is the key goal. Distribution of power, education, free primary education, secondary education, maternity health care, and so on and so forth. I mean, there's a myriad of programs that the government is embarking on to ensure that in the course of time, the benefits and the pressure of the cost of living is reduced on the common mwananchi. Having said that, if you look at the SGR, for instance, Moses said it's been 115 years since we had a new railway. And remember that every single town that exists along the railway, from Mombasa to Nakuru, Naivasha, Karatina, all of these towns grew as a result of the railway. So the entire Kenyan economy is based on the railway line from inception. So what does that mean? That by the creation of a standard gauge railway, an artery that is efficient, high speed, can carry more goods and services through the country, it means that a secondary economy can be generated by that one project alone. And all the ancillary industries and services and economic centers that will mushroom around this SGR will completely transform at the county level the local economies. Now, having said that, we also need to look at the strides that we're making in the economic sector, in the education sector, with free primary education, and moving on to free secondary education, and ultimately we must have an opportunity for free tertiary education, because this is where in many other countries the gains are made and the policies to drive the programs which Kenya has identified as priority would be developed, because we can't say we're just going to have a generalized education system, yet we need to focus on areas where we have competitive advantage as a nation, and say Kenya is going to specialize in these 4 areas in the next 20 years and develop the curriculum and the academic competence to achieve that objective. Okay. So I think it must be twofold.
Honorable Moses Kajwang, I want to give you a fair chance, and this is in regards to the opposition. We cannot talk about how well the government has done or not well they've done without also looking at how well the opposition has done, and your scale of 1 to 10 on how the opposition has performed this year in terms of keeping the government in check.
I think we still have a long way to go, but I'll give the opposition a 6 out of 10, because a number of the things or responses we are seeing from the government have been initiated by the opposition asking questions. NYS, issues of Eurobond, and a few other issues. We could still do better when it comes to the institution that is Parliament, but when it comes to talking directly to the people, the opposition has done a fairly tremendous job. The opposition has come up with proposals on how to amend our constitution. When you talk about 2015 and some of the achievements we've made, we must also point out that we have failed to implement the constitution as was envisaged. There are certain things that we should have done by 2015. We had bills that had constitutional deadlines, which because of laziness in Parliament, we have had to extend by a couple of months. And that laziness is not only confined to Parliament. There's also laziness from the executive, because in some of these cases, they need to be initiated from the executive. But the opposition has gone ahead and has come up with proposals and put them on the table. Now, whether the proposals are too much or too little or too heavy or too light is a different matter. The opposition, seeing itself as a responsible part of the governance process of this nation, has said, let's look at this constitution and let's try to improve it. And for me, one area that I think the opposition has made a very candid and a very attractive proposition is to increase the amounts allocated to devolution. We've been talking about Kenyans feeling the trickle-down effects of all these borrowings and all these mega projects we are doing. When I go to Homa Bay County and I tell them about the standard gauge railway, it sounds very distant to them. I have to sit them down and explain to them how that is going to affect them or improve their lot in the long run. When I talk to them about LAPSET or Konza Technopolis, it all sounds very abstract and very distant. But when I tell them that within the county of Homa Bay, out of the allocation that we are getting from the national share of revenue, we are going to put up a port in Kindu Bay. We are going to renovate the pier in Homa Bay. We are going to revive cotton. We are going to revive sorghum or any other industry at the local level. It resonates. Right. And I think for us to be in a position where the ordinary Kenyan feels the effects and the fruits, probably we need to look at devolution. Devolution as it is. I need to wind up because we're really doing badly for time. Devolution as it is. I know there've been thoughts about the size and the numbers of units. That's neither here nor there. Even if we had only 2 counties, but we want 45% to go to those 2 counties. That is the point we are making.
All right. Your rating of the opposition, Moses Kuria.
If you say 6 out of 10, I'm amazed because, you know, they have nothing else to do. So they should be on 9 out of 10.
Exactly.
You know, as we have got work to do. Second thing is, if it is 6 out of 10, I'm fairly satisfied because, you know, they are going to be in the opposition for a very long time. So there's room for improvement. So over time, they are going to improve. And I'm really...
Jubilee got only 4.
It's okay. It's about 10 years. It's about the time available.
All right.
But I'm
Very
really,
briefly.
I would want to really see, and I agree with my brother Moses Kajwang, you know, the opposition in parliament, actually, I know you've got the disadvantage of numbers, but, you know, we are not zombies out there, even as Jubilee people. If Kaluma comes up with, and he's come up with very progressive bills, which us as members of Jubilee have supported.
Yes.
Yeah. The Honorable Joe Mutambu is coming up with the same ideas which I'm pushing to my Punguza Mzigo referendum of reducing, actually doing away with the Senate, actually reducing the number of our counties,
and I wish we had time to even go
reducing our numbers in parliament so that he can be the MP for Homa Bay, and which is your neighboring constituency. Yeah? So you take on more of that.
We need to wind up right there. Time
I think
Can I rate the opposition?
Just the rating.
Just the rating.
With no comments.
If it's a rating of poking holes, throwing stones, and lighting fires, 9 out of 10.
All right. And Honorable Kaluma, your rating of the opposition, just the rating, no comments on it.
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
For
Thank you
throwing
very
stones
much.
and lighting fires.
Honorable Peter Kaluma, MP Homa Bay Town, Honorable Ndungu Githenji, who is MP for Teto, and Honorable Moses Kajwang, Senator Homa Bay, and Honorable Moses Kuria, MP Gatondo South. Thank you very much for joining us on State of the Nation, and that's where we're going to wind it up. And that's the State of the Nation this morning, and well, that's where we wind up Morning Express this morning. Do join us for News Hour, which is coming up at exactly 8 o'clock. This is Morning Express.